If you don't have at least 2 of these 4 acquisition channels working for your OnlyFans agency, then you are fucked. Outbound, inbound, paid ads, and referrals. Most agencies only have 1, and it's usually broken or inefficient. So in this video, I'll show you how to build a client acquisition machine using all 4 levers, so you never actually run dry again. So you're stuck in these feast and famine cycles because you've got no pipeline, right? And so I'll break down how you actually combine the core 4 and build a system that brings you leads every single day, just like what I've done at Melossom, which is now scaled to over $1 million a month, and we book 20 plus model calls a day. So pay attention, because I actually know what I'm talking about, unlike all these other fucking fake gurus that are trying to sell you in 997 calls. I don't sell a calls. The only calls I offer is completely free, which you can check out in the link in the description. But that being said, let's just cut straight to the video and let's get into it. Now, before we actually dive deep into acquisition and how you're actually going to ultimately create the most amount of leverage in your business, I want to just give you some proof that I actually know what I'm talking about, right? Because today I'm going to be solely talking about how you can actually find and sign those high quality creators that are going to grow exponentially. And an example of that, just to show you exactly I know what I'm talking about, is this creator that we signed right here. Okay, February, she was making 10 grand a month. Again, March, she jumped to $69,000. And then April, $280,000, right? This month already, we're 4 days into the month, and she's already at $36,000, $45,000 gross, right? And as you can see before that, your best months were like 14K, okay? So that is proof. And as you can see again, in the last, let me pull this up, in the last 30 days, just a little refresh, she's done around $291,000, right? So that's that. That should be all the proof that you need. Now lock in, concentrate, right? Because you are not stuck because your systems are broken. You are stuck because you're building around the wrong input. And our input is you're building around the wrong creators. And so by focusing on the wrong creators, you hold yourself back so much, right? Because let me put it like this. You only have 24 hours in a day, right? We all have the same time and energy. We all have 24 hours in a day. The difference between me and you is I know exactly how I'm spending my time and energy, and not just that, but where to spend it. Because that's what focus is, right? Focus is the multiplier of time and energy. And so I know exactly where to focus my time that is going to create the biggest return, right? And what we call that is understanding the asymmetries of your business. If you understand the asymmetries of your business, meaning you understand where the biggest leverage points are, you then know that you can put very little input into that thing, focus on that, and get a massive output in return. Whereas most of you are putting in a ton of input to get very little in return, and that's why you're stuck working in your business and you're working 12 hours a day. We didn't build businesses to have golden handcuffs, right? If you don't have the freedom to do what you want and you have to work and you feel like you have to work because you feel like working harder is actually going to make you more money, that is not true, right? Like, you can get you to a certain point working on, putting in all this effort and grinding, but that'll only get you so far, because at a certain point you have to evolve your mindset. I barely work. Like, I probably work maybe 2 hours a day, and that's because I choose to. But those 2 hours a day are heavily focused on the biggest leverage points. They're very small inputs to get a massive outsized return, right? And that's because I understand the asymmetries of my business, what levers to pull, where our bottlenecks are, where our constraints are, and I just focus on solving one thing at a time, and I keep it super simple, right? Because remember, simple scales and complex fails. And so because I understand this is a mindset I had to adopt to get to over $1 million a month. It's really not about how hard you work. It really isn't. And that's where most people get stuck. And so if you are of that mindset right now that I need to work really hard, and if I work, I just need to work harder, I need to be more productive. Like, if you're one of those people that needs to like be productive and feel motivated and build discipline and build habits, like, that's only going to get you so far, right? Because I don't do any of that shit, and I probably make more money than you, right? And so to put it into perspective, like, you need to start to change your mindset. And you can do that by starting to understand the asymmetries of your business. You can do that by starting to understand the inputs that you need to do on a day-to-day. This is one of the main things that we do in our partnership offer with the agencies that we partner with. I partner with a handful of agencies, and no, I'm not here to sell you like my partnership, like it's exclusive, like you can't join. But I just want to explain, like, the partners that come into our partnership, all we pretty much do is, yeah, of course, we plug and play our systems in that work, our traffic systems, delivery systems, so on and so forth. But the main thing we actually do for those founders is we design the inputs that they need to do on a day-to-day basis to get the result that they want, right? They all come in with a goal. I want to hit 100K a month. I want to go from 100K a month to 500K a month. I want to go from, 250K a month to $1 million a month, wherever it is that they're doing. All we pretty much do is audit them, figure out what they're doing, what the constraints of the business are, and then design an input-based plan for them of, okay, these are the leverage points in your business, these are the asymmetries, and then these are the inputs that you need to do on a day-to-day basis over the next 6 months to get the output. And as long as you do these things, it literally makes it unreasonable for you to not get this output. Like, the only way you fail is if you don't do the thing, okay? And so I'm like, okay, you need to spend the first 4 hours of your day on this thing and you do nothing else, right? Because there's nothing else that matters. I don't care if you want to go and reply to your clients and think these things are important. I promise you it's not, right? And that's all we pretty much do, is we just design the inputs that they need to do on a day-to-day basis based on how my trajectory of how I've got to over 2 million months in my agency. So I know what they need to focus on. And then next thing you know, 6 months down the line, 3 months down the line, sometimes faster, sometimes longer, they hit their goal and most of the time exceed it, right? And so the difference is not necessarily the systems, it's not the tools, it's not the SOPs, it's the actual like inputs, right? And so I want to tailor this to acquisition in particular today, because the biggest difference with those agencies and why they succeed is actually the standard that they set at the acquisition level, right? Because there's two types of people watching this video right now, right? Those still trying to squeeze the juice out of a dried up lemon, meaning you're still trying to make that low tier, low leverage, lazy creator work because you feel indebted to it. But we're not here to try and make those creators work, but that's what you're trying to do. And there's those that are making 100K a month effortlessly because they've learned how to spot the right creator, right? And so most of you think that you actually have a delivery problem when in general you probably have an acquisition problem dressed up in busy work, right? You're in the business constantly. So what I'm not going to do in this video is I'm not going to feed you the same bullshit like agency fluff that all these other people that sell 997 courses do. I'm not going to pitch you some like fucking magical outreach script that's going to get all the girls to reply to you, or some done for you funnel, or some, you know, black hat dating app marketing method, or mass DMs, or any of that shit that doesn't work. I'm going to show you what the actual top 1% of OnlyFans agencies are doing to scale without being glued to chats, without being glued to looking for shiny objects, without being glued to chaos, and without being glued to their creators. And so that is what I mainly want to go over. And we're going to talk about outbound, inbound, referrals, and paid, okay? So most of you have 1 to 2 creators, probably, that you're trying to carry on your back. You're burning your time, you're burning your energy, and that's a finite currency, and you can't be playing that game, right? Because the only difference between the agency A that comes into the space in 3 months and is now making 200 grand a month versus agency B that's been in the space for 3 years and is just stuck at 20K still, is their focus, is their time and energy, right? So you can't afford to waste their babysitting creators that are not A tier, okay? So that being said, right, you can't be burning brain cells on those creators that are going to ghost, that are going to delay, that are not treating this seriously, they're treating it like a hobby, while someone else is onboarding new A tier girls this week who's actually listening, who's following the calendar, who's actually asking the right questions, who's being curious, who's submitting content early, who's asking, what else can I do to grow faster, right? Those two agencies can have the same backend, the same chat team, the same structure, but the different input, the input being the creator. And this is a creator-based business. However you want to look at it, I don't care if you've got the best marketing method in the world that's black hat that can blow any creator up, you're always going to get different results whatever traffic system you have based on the creator. And so why not make it easier on yourself by having an acquisition and going all in on acquisition that specifically filters for that talent, that finds the next Sophie Rains, the next Camillas, the next like that is what you need, right? Because that's where the most leverage is. And so the thing is, most people think that this is a service-based business. And if that's exactly what you think, that this is a service-based business and you deliver a service for these creators, you are solely fucking mistaken, my friend. Let me break that belief for you right now. This is a talent business. And until you actually start treating it like talent scouting, not babysitting, you'll keep playing the wrong game. Because the truth is, one A-tier creator can quite literally change your entire trajectory of your life and is worth more than 10 B-tier ones and more than 50 C-tier ones, right? Because those creators actually cost you more than you can calculate if you're involved in fulfillment and delivery, which is obviously why I designed the ABC system, right? Because I'm not really involved at all. I don't even know who our C team and B team creators are. I've never spoke to them. But they have an automated service delivery that gets them results. And if they stick to the things, they end up maybe becoming an A-tier creator, or maybe they stay there, or maybe they churn. It doesn't matter. I'm not focused on them. I'm focused on the A-tier creators because that's where all the leverage is, right? And like I showed you that creator's results, our acquisition system was able to pick her out, figure out she's A tier and scale her to 200K a month in 60 days, 300K a month in 60 days, sorry, like 290 something thousand gross, right? Which, so we generated 300 grand, whereas before she was stuck at 10K a month. And it's the same with your agencies. Understanding the asymmetries of your agency is the same as us understanding the asymmetries of the creator's business, right? Because you want to be looking at these creators as businesses. And so if you was if you was on Shark Tank and you was Mark Cuban and a creator came to you and pitched herself to you, would you want to invest your capital into growing your business? Do you trust her? Do you think she's a good founder? Do you think that she has the skill sets, the ambition, that she's going to be a good OnlyFans creator, that she's all in? Because that's how you have to treat these creators, right? I'm looking at like, do I want to invest my time and energy, which is worth more than money, right? Because it's finite. Money is fucking abundant. Money is not real. So it's like, do I want to invest my time and energy into scaling this creator? And if she's not home run A tier, then the answer is fuck no, right? Because you're just going to waste your time. And so I would rather spend all my time and energy building an acquisition system and filtering for those A-tier creators and spend 6 months making no money to find one A-team creator that then goes from 10K to 400K a month, because you make more money playing that game versus getting stuck with creators making 10, 20 grand a month. Yeah, you're making 10, 20 grand a month and it's nice. But imagine, okay, you just delay that gratification and just go boom, parabolic, and go from making, 10 grand to 50K to fucking 300K, right? Instantly, you're making a lot of money, okay? So just from me signing this one creator and focusing on acquisition, my agency makes an additional 150K every single month because of it, okay? So that is the difference, right? That is the difference. So again, this is not a service-based business. If that's what you believe, you are wrong. You are in the talent business, okay? So that's key. You're not here to save people. You're here to find the ones who are already ready and build around them. Now, here's the mindfuck, right? You can't actually spot A-tier creators on a call necessarily, right? Unless you've taken thousands of calls like we have. There's definitely traits and habits and the way they fill out forms that can give you some level of, okay, this could be an A-team creator. Like, for example, some of our best A-team creators, they all fill out the full onboarding form very similarly, in the sense of like, when we ask about their goals, they're like, I want to be making 400 grand a month, and they're only making like 10K a month at that time. That shows me like, holy shit, this girl has a lot of ambition. She's making 10 grand a month and she's never made more than 10 grand a month, and she believes that she can make 400K a month. That's crazy, but that's usually a green flag for us, because a lot of our A-tier girls that are making 3, 4, 500K a month are doing act that way, right? But again, you can't tell an A-tier creator on the call, right? But that's why we don't guess and we don't bet on words. We actually build filters, right? And so like, we actually give a structure, a 7-day runway, a plan, a task, a test, because talent doesn't show up in conversation, it shows up in execution. And so we're looking at stuff like, who followed the onboard instructions, who submitted the videos without being chased, who submitted XYZ thing without needing to have help and assistance, like who messaged us saying, I'm done, like what's next, who's showing that, like who's showing that ambition, right? That's the signal, that's what you build around, right? If she's done nothing for the first 7 days, she's unresponsive, it's difficult to get hold of her, she's making excuses, that's not who you build around, right? That's not who you invest your time and energy in. And so you want to grow, right? If that's what you want to do, you want to grow, then stop praying and start watching, right? So let's talk strategy, right? There's only 4 acquisition channels that matter. And those 4 acquisition channels are outbound for speed, inbound for leverage, paid for scale, and referrals for compounding. And the best agencies that we work with, including my own agency, have all 4 acquisition systems dialed. Now, you don't necessarily have to start there, but you need all 4 systems if you want to succeed fast and you want to make a lot of money, right? You can't just rely on one. So outbound, right? That's your hustle. That's the grind. That's all about volume, all about touch points, all about filtering. Nothing replaces it, but it's not necessarily sales. It is scouting, right? So be curious, right? That is the key there. You want to be curious, right? Create mystique, spark a response, qualify interest, book the call, and so on. Then you got inbound, right? That's YouTube, and I mean it, right? And if you want to watch a video on outbound, by the way, like how to actually sign models, I'll pop a video up around here on the screen. You can go and watch that after this video. Go save it, come back to this one, wherever you want to do, but you can watch that at the end. It's a very good video if you want to understand outbound. But outbound's cool. Okay, cool. That's the outbound's for speed. Inbound, right? That's for leverage. That's the YouTube, right? And I mean it, not fucking just like TikTok and IG. TikTok and IG is for discovery. YouTube is for depth, right? And if you want to go layer deeper, having a community, right? That is then depth and loyalty, okay? These are long-term plays. Inbound's the long-term game, right? Because YouTube is the kingmaker right now. One 20-minute video with the right messaging, the right psychological persuasion, right? That is potentially like can feed you for months. Like now, one video, it could get 5,000 views, it could get 2,000 views. If it's highly targeted and you use the right messaging, that can feed you for months. You can get so many leads from that. It is insane. And so if you're not posting at least once a week on YouTube to your ideal target market, then you're voluntarily staying broke, right? Get over it. Oh, I don't want to put my face to it. Get over it. Do you want to make money or not? Okay. And if you're really that against putting your face to it, go and find someone that's willing to do it. You need to find a way to make it work. Be resourceful, right? The difference between rich people and poor people is rich people rely on being resourceful instead of relying on resources, right? Whereas poor people rely on resources over being resourceful. And so just be resourceful. I started with no money. I didn't just start randomly making $2 million a month with my agency, right? Like that's just not where it happened. Like I was poor, like dead poor. So inbound, outbound, right? Again, outbound's for speed, inbound's for leverage, and you got paid, which is for scale. So once you've got outbound and inbound working, paid is now great because once you've got a personal brand, if you've got a personal brand, you start running paid ads, that is like the holy grail. When I met with Alex Hormozi in Vegas, because I won the Skool games, literally he was mentioning how having like a good inbound system and then adding paid ads to that, so having a good personal brand and adding paid ads to that just creates so much leverage, and that is the holy grail, right? So that being said, only like when you have paid, you're amplifying what's already working, right? One clean offer, one type VSL, one simple funnel. You don't need any fucking gimmicks. You just need proof, position, and process. And then you got referrals, which you should have anyway from day one. That is where you're going to be incentivizing introductions, right? Now, referrals are for compounding. Once you get clients in, you need a referral structure. So for example, incentivizing those introductions, because creators know other creators, and ex-agency owners will also send talent your way as well. It happens to me a lot, especially if they trust you. And so, for example, you can pay 5% to direct and then 2.5% to second degree because it stacks, it compounds, and it's literally free scale, okay? So run all four, right? If you run all four and you're not in the DMs begging, you are in the position of power. But listen closely, right? Because signing them isn't winning. That's where most of you actually relax. Once she's filled out the form, and she's dropped in the group or wherever your onboarding process is, once she's been onboarded, cool, that's fine. But what matters is week one. Because if they don't show promise in the first 7 days, then just cut them, especially if you're just beginning. If you've got a system like me, you can throw them in your C team or in your B team. But if they don't show promise in week one, cut them, especially if you've only got a limited time and energy and you're not decentralized and you don't have a big team, just cut them, right? Because you need a system that gives you a signal, right? So like, for example, day 1 expectations, day 3 deliverables, day 5 evaluate response, day 7 decide, right? And so the one question you need to ask yourself when you do sign that creator is, would I bet 3 months of my business on this person? Because that's usually how long it's going to take, especially with organic systems and stuff like that. If you're just beginning, you can blow a creator up in 3 months, right? So like, just to give you an example, this creator signed with us on November 1st, right? We had to start from scratch because her accounts were destroyed, right? Like her socials were destroyed. So we scrapped everything. We didn't use our other creators to shout out. We wanted to do this just for a case study to show what's possible with an ATA creator, right? I could have boosted it month 1 to 50 grand, right? But we didn't do any of that. We just specifically applied our organic traffic system, right? Our viral content engine, all organic, no paid at all, okay? Month 1, again, 0 Instagram followers, 0 TikTok followers. Month 1, she made 12K, right? Which was worse, but again, we started from scratch. January, 9K. Okay, cool. It hadn't compounded yet, right? But again, 12K gross. February, 12K. But again, she was starting to get momentum, right? She started having a couple thousand followers, so on and so forth. Everything compounds, right? This is where she hit her exponential growth curve. And this is why I say 3 months, because this took 3 months, right? Purely organic, starting from scratch with our viral content engine. This is the power of that. You then go from making 12K and being stuck there for forever, right? To now making $69,000 the next month, right? To then jumping from $69,000 to $280,000, all from organic, free content. We didn't pay a single penny on ads. We didn't do any black hat marketing. Just literally use our viral content engine that took 3 months starting from 0. And now, to put into perspective, right? Not only is she making 300 grand a month, but she's gone from 0 to 500,000 followers on TikTok and 0 to 500,000 followers on Instagram. And she's getting, on average, like 200 to 300K views per video is her baseline, sorry, not on average, her baseline. And she's getting like 100 million views a month, right? And that is literally 1, 2, 3 months of the building the foundations, right? Starting from scratch, 3 months, and then hitting the exponential growth curve, right? So within, again, 60 days, literally 60 days from 12K to 300K. That's all it took, okay? So that's the power of understanding this stuff, understanding, latency, time delay, compound effect, and obviously having an actual system that works, right? That is key. And obviously the main thing, you understanding where to invest our time and energy. Because imagine we spent 3 months giving this creator our viral content engine, right? And pouring into them for them to just continue stuck at this. But we know she'd hit the exponential growth curve. We didn't know if it was going to be in month 2 or in month 3, but we knew she'd hit it. We knew it was going to be slow because she was starting from scratch again. And we wanted to do it as a case study. We didn't want to cross-promote it with any of our other models. We just wanted to do it purely organic through her. And boom, the proof's in the pudding, right? So that is the key. That is the difference, right? That is the difference. Now, that being said, right? Again, you want to be asking the question, would I bet 3 months of my business on this person? Because that's the question that I asked you. And I said yes, because I knew that this girl was A-tier talent. And again, I bet 3 months of my business on it. Okay, cool. We didn't see much of a return for these 3 months. But now we're seeing a fucking return, right? So you ask yourself, is it worth it? Is 3 months worth it? Because a lot of you are impatient as well. And a lot of you in month 2 or month 3, you didn't set expectations well enough with the creator in the first place. So she either leaves because she's not happy, because she's still plateauing, or you start to panic and you start to change the strategy and you start to look for all these shiny objects because you feel like you need to make it work or she's going to leave, right? But we already know we've got a system. Like, we know as long as these inputs happen, this is the output that happens. There's a different time delay depending on the input of the creator. Sometimes it'll take a month, sometimes it'll take 2, sometimes it'll take 3, right? Never usually takes more than 3. That's usually if we're starting from 0. But it works every fucking time. And that's the point of having a tried and tested system that we've tested across hundreds of creators, and hundreds of agencies also use the system and it works for them, right? That's the benefit of having a real system. And a lot of these like gurus and stuff like talk about systems and like act like they have a system and they don't even know where a fucking system is, right? Like literally, like I've spoken to these guys in my DMs, like the people that sell the courses and act like and show fake fucking bunch of shit, wherever. I don't want to get distracted, right? But most of these guys are full of shit. So, again, would I bet 3 months of my business on this person? If yes, push. If no, part ways, right? It's not personal. It's a process. So, that is that. Now, I want to talk about sales without selling, right? Because the best sales calls doesn't necessarily feel like one. You're not there to sell. You're there to lead. You're there to show them a mirror, right? You let them talk. You dig, you uncover. Where are they now, right? Where do they want to be? What's holding them back? You let them feel the gap and you let the silence do the work. You're not selling yourself. You're not pitching. You're not jumping on the call going, I promise you I can get you 1 to 10 chatting ratios and do this and I'm going to blow you up and blah, 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 blah. That's not how you do it, right? That's just not sales. Now, again, you want to let them talk, dig, uncover. You want to let them feel the gap, let the silence do the work. And when they ask for the solution, that's when you share it, right? It's not done for you. It's not, we're going to do everything for you, make your life so much easier. It's a co-built partnership, right? And so what we're doing, and this is probably why most of you can't pitch this way or can't sell this way, is because you don't have the system that's proven that works, right? Because with us, we bring the system that we know is tested, that's acid tested, to be fair, that's fucking tried and that works every time, as long as it's the right input into the system. And then the creator just needs to bring the work ethic. And then if they want in, great. If not, next, because they're not going to be the right input for the system anyway, right? So high standards equal high conversion. So that is then where it comes down into retention and delivery. So now she's in, she's sending content, she's motivated, now what, right? Well, now you actually retain her by engineering momentum. So this is the key. You might be thinking like, Dylan, you kept that creator plateauing for 3 months before she hit her exponential growth curve. How did you do that? Well, firstly, setting expectations on the call. Obviously, after auditing her and understanding that we needed to start from scratch, we had to really set those expectations that this is what it's going to look like. But by showing her proof of, look, this is the system, this is how it works, it's guaranteed. Like, I guarantee you, and having a good offer and a good guarantee based on the system, like, that obviously helps as well, because we can show her other results of creators just like her who've done it. So obviously, we're retaining her by doing that, but also we're retaining her by engineering momentum, which anyone can do, right? So again, 1 week, 1 focus, really key, right? So for example, week 1 could be content, week 2 could be OF optimization, week 2 could be chatting, week 2 could be scaling, right? That can be your rhythm. So for example, week 1, she's just bulk creating all the content you need for the entire month, for example. Week 2, she's focusing on all the bulk creation of OF content, for example, and you move on, right? That's just a broad example. But again, you're going to be tracking in, you're going to be checking in, you're going to be sending feedback, you're going to be showing signal, right? And these are the little things that make a massive difference. You should be checking in with your creators all the time and just giving feedback in the sense of like, yo, by the way, X name, like your chat conversion's up 18% since started, right? Or, you know, your reel hit 30K in the last 6 hours. Little stuff like that is what kept her motivated throughout those 3 months of starting from scratch, building the foundations, right? Because we were seeing progress, because that's how we know we're going to hit the exponential growth curve, because that's what the system does. But it's just doing those little things, like, oh, we've just had a video that's gone viral today, like, well done, like, keep crushing it, like, this is a good sign. By the way, like, we just had this tip or this, but whatever it is, right? Just little things just to show you that progress is real, right? Because even if the cash isn't flowing yet, emotionally, they're still going to feel progress. And an emotional ROI is what keeps them in the game. Okay, so that's key. Now, we can talk about like the actual viral traffic system, and you can continue how you can actually like scale that even further. But you want to ultimately develop a traffic system where it's not consistently reliant on the creator forever, right? You want to implement a system where you can actually scale views without burning out the creator, okay? And so that's where stuff like building a clipping army and having our trial reel system and doing stuff like that can obviously help massively. I'm not going to talk about that in this video today, but if you want a breakdown of how we actually run a clipping army and how we actually do trial reels and how we exploit trial reels to get like billions of views a month, I can make a video on that. And also, if you want a video on like our entire organic sort of framework and system, I can give the rundown on what that is, but just comment below if that's something you want. But again, you want to make sure that the creator doesn't get burnt out and that you're not always relying on them to create new content, because that's where most people's organic systems fail. People use organic content and think, oh, but that's creator reliant. Like, you know, I need a creator, it's creator dependent. They need to constantly be creating more content, blah, blah, blah. That's not how our system works, right? We require input for a certain amount of time, and then they never have to make new content ever again if they want, or they can spend 2 hours a month making content, and that's all we need, right? And that's because of the way we built the system. And so we're engineering reach using what already works, right? And what hundreds of proven content, like the data from that content shows us. We know exactly how to hit the algorithm in different pockets to make the same piece of content go viral and viral over and over and over and over again, right? So that's going to bring in more eyes, more subs, more profit without you actually needing to lift a finger once the work's done. So let me leave you with this, right? Your business doesn't stall because of strategy, it stalls because of you. It stalls because of your need to control, right? Your fear of letting go, your addiction to solving everything. If you want to scale, you need to stop being the operator and start being the architect. So you need to look at, how do you systemize? How do you delegate? How do you step away and actually decentralize your business? This is what no one talks about on YouTube. If you want a video on that as well, drop in the comments. I can make a video on how I decentralize myself. But you want to stop working inside the machine, right? Because most of you have golden handcuffs, right? That is the key. And so start building it, right? And ask yourself daily, am I doing work only I can do? If not, reassign it or delete it, because freedom isn't a function of revenue, it's a function of structure. That is it. And yeah, peace.